heads, hello, health heads. Welcome and thank you for checking in to part one of this double dose of Healthcare Uprising. Haven't done too many of these, but this conversation was too long and too good to cut it down, so we're going to do a two-parter here. But I am your producer, Jeremy Carr, and here with your host, Heather Pierce, who's now going to give us a more detailed description of what's on our agenda for today. Aren't you, Heather?
But not too detailed.
No, we gotta let them hear it for themselves.
Yeah, this one's a lot. It's heavy. So we have Christine Rallo, who is joining us today for her episode talking about her experience being diagnosed with Guillain-Barre.
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 Guillain.
Gonna get it. Guillain-Barre. Y'all.
And you will hear us say it wrong initially in the episode too. And it was through this conversation that I learned how to say that.
Yeah, I said it wrong in the first time. So we'll just call it GBS for short. Okay. GBS, it's a rare life-threatening autoimmune disorder where the immune system damages peripheral nerves. So that's like, the stuff kind of at the ends, right? Peripheral. And it causes a whole lot of problems. And it's pretty scary. And Christine shares her story with us. So we've got part one, which is kind of the diagnosis, going through the initial kind of beginnings of the disease, what that looked like for her, how that impacted her life. And then part two is more of the
recovery.
Yeah, the recovery and the kind of the coming out of it, and what her what the second half of her story looks like. So we go up the mountain and then we come down the mountain in part two. So there you go.
And really probably the most intense personal story episode we've had yet. So
there's
a reason why it's two parts, and it's going to be worth the time to listen. So without further ado, let's jump into part one here with Christine Rallo.
Let's do it. Hi, and welcome to the Healthcare Uprising podcast. Today we have with us Christine Rallo, who is going to share her human story with us about her diagnosis with Guillain-Barre Syndrome. I'm going to leave it at that. And Christine, welcome to the show. We're so glad that you're here with us to tell this story. And you're going to really educate, I think, us and our listeners today. So happy to have you.
Thanks, Heather. I really am grateful to be on the show.
Great. Yeah. Let's spread the word about this very rare condition, disease.
I've only really heard of it one time personally. There's a famous musician from some big band who recently had to quit music because he got diagnosed with Guillain-Barre, and I can't remember the band.
Right. Well, maybe it'll come to you during the show.
Maybe if not, I'll look it up. Find a link in the show notes or something like that.
But it is rare.
Literally the only time I've ever heard of it.
Yeah.
Just want to give a baseline on that.
It really isn't a word I think that people hear very often. So Christine's going to share with us your story, which is absolutely incredible, like jaw-dropping. I read it twice and I'm just like, wow. So with that,
as per my typical assignment, I did not read it.
No.
Because I'm not supposed to know.
Okay.
The element of surprise.
So that's our element here on the Uprising.
Yeah. So Christine, tell us.
We'll see if we can get his jaw to drop.
I think we can. Yeah. And everybody else. So let's dive in. Tell us about your story. What happened? Yeah.
So it began on February 2nd. So I actually just celebrated a year.
That's right. Almost a year from recording here.
This is a very fresh story.
Very.
Yes. Yeah, so I woke up on February 2nd. It was a Sunday morning around 8 a.m. And it was just a get up and go use the restroom. And when I did, when I went to get out of bed, I noticed that my legs from my knees down were very heavy, tingly and numb. And I just kind of, as I sat there, right? And then I stood up and it was very difficult for me to walk. So I was holding on to like the bedpost, the dresser, the door jambs, just to get into the restroom. And when I came back and I'm standing in front of my bed, getting ready to get back in, I literally just collapsed down to the floor. My legs just went straight out from under me and I just fell straight to the floor. And so my partner jumped up and he's like, "What is happening?" And I just looked at him and I just said, "I have no idea what's going on with me, but I think that it is going to be in our best interest, my best interest, for us to get to the ER very quickly. So we proceeded to get ready, and I said, as we're getting ready, I said, I think it's probably going to be best if we call an ambulance because I do not have the strength to get into your truck.
Wow.
And I think that way I can, start being, assessed by a medical professional immediately. So
So,
that's kind of started it. Yeah. So we called 911 and that
Mm.
kind of began, you know,
Wow.
that's horrifying. That's
So
a
that's
horrifying moment.
so scary. And like losing in that, this seems like this happened very quickly.
it
Like
did.
an, okay.
So the only thing was the night before when I was laying in bed and getting ready to go to bed, I told my partner, no way. I said, it's weird. I said, my hands are kind of tingly and numb. And
Oh,
he's like, were you laying on them wrong? I said, I don't know. But, it's like bedtime. I rolled over, forgot about it, went to sleep, and then woke up, and then this happened. So,
wow.
So it was in your hands and then it was in your legs.
yeah. So, yeah, that started in my hands. I mean, I just noticed they were tingly and numb. And then I woke up and that was gone. And then it had started in my lower extremities of my legs.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So you call 911, they come pick you up, um,
correct.
get you to the hospital. Like what happens
Mhm.
next?
So it took about maybe 2.5 hours for them to assess me, for a doctor to actually come and speak with me and kind of figure out what's happening. So when he did, he pretty much called it right off the bat. He said, I think what you're experiencing is called Guillain-Barre Syndrome. And I started laughing. I said, Gilligan, what?
Mhm.
And he
Oh,
started
and we
laughing. He
said it
goes,
wrong. Now I'm
yeah.
realizing I even
Oh,
pronounced it
that's,
wrong.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
he goes, what it is. So I said, you're going to have to explain this to me. I've never heard of this in my entire life. And, Noe's shaking his head like this is something we've never heard of. So
Mhm.
he explains that what it is a very rare neurological disease where you're, so for instance, let me back up just a quick second. So that week prior to this happening, I was just feeling like I was fighting off an upper respiratory infection. And so I explained that to him. So he assessed that I had a virus, some sort of a virus in my body.
Mhm.
Okay. And so what happens is your immune system, instead of fighting off the virus or an illness or, what have you, what happens is your immune system mistakenly starts attacking your peripheral nerves and will start eating away at the nerve
Oh
endings.
no.
Peripheral nerves being, just
Yikes.
to be clear, are what
The
is that?
extremities.
Extreme. Okay.
Outside of the core of the central nervous system. So like outside the spine
Yeah.
and the main hubs of the nervous
Hence the
system. All the
tingling.
nerves down your arm
Yeah.
and down your
Yeah,
leg and stuff like
throughout
that.
your entire body.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Just making sure everyone knows.
Right. And so what I've been told for the most part, the majority of people who have acquired this disease, we all kind of have the same story where it does start in the lower extremities. And depending on how severe it gets, each person is different. It can leave you with partial paralysis, full paralysis. And in that case, that's what happened to me.
Mm.
So the timeline was I get
You
to
ended
the
up fully
ER.
paralyzed?
Yeah.
Oh
Yes. And
wow.
then so this happened very quickly. So the timeline was about 8 a.m. it starts, right? When I wake up, I notice it. And I get to the ER and I'm finally assessed by a doctor, let's say around 1:30. By 8 p.m. that night, I was completely paralyzed up to my shoulders.
That's
That's
Oh
crazy.
how
my
quick it took
God.
me. And the only thing I could do was move my head back and forth and move my eyes. And so they admit me, obviously, and they're running a series of testing. I mean, MRIs, spinal taps, everything to kind of confirm what his prognosis thought it was. And it did pretty much confirm that what I was experiencing was this rare disease called Guillain-Barre. And what had happened was that my immune system had just really attacked my body so quickly.
Wow.
And
And it's
so
just set
within
off by, I'm sorry to
no,
interrupt,
go
but
ahead.
it
No.
was it's just set off by like you get a random virus and then your body suddenly flips a switch.
Yeah. And and
That's
there's
crazy.
no, and it's not that it's hereditary, and there's no rhyme or reason why it attacked me and not you or,
Mhm.
Heather. It's just there's no rhyme or reason why it attacks certain people.
That makes it even scarier
That's
because I
horrifying.
feel like certain, like autoimmune conditions and different things like this, it's like there's like the genetic background or there's something they can find that causes it, right? Like this is
Right.
pretty random.
It is. It's very random. And again,
Wow.
I don't think that there is
Yikes.
enough study to kind of figure this out. But
Hmm.
now, I don't know if it's now that I've had it, I'm more in tune to it, but it is also like the one question that I was repeatedly asked was, did you get a flu shot? So can they state that you can acquire this disease by getting a vaccine
Oh boy.
or by having a virus, so I mean, again, I don't
That's
think
like
there's enough.
everybody.
I
That's what
mean,
I'm
just
saying. I
getting a
don't think there's
virus. Yeah, like
enough
we all get sick.
study.
Wow.
Yeah. So 2 days later, so they admit me and they're running a series of tests on me. And I remember, so I'm able to speak for the 2 days, the first 2 days. So the second and the third, I'm in the hospital room. I'm able to speak. And um, I remember the, so it was 2 days later. So I'm on the second, the third, so the fourth. I started really having difficulty breathing.
Mm.
And so the nurses, as the nurses are coming in, I remember the nurse saying to me, if you can stay off the ventilator, that's going to help you significantly. Do you think that, because I had very diminished breathing capacity at that point,
Hmm.
and she asked, do you think that you can breathe on your own? And I shook my head no.
That's scary.
And I
Okay.
just said, yeah, I just shook my head no. I said, I don't think so. As I'm like taking these deep breaths, right? And so I look at Noe, my partner, and I just said, I don't know what to do here. And so he, so he just said, he told the nurse, he's like, I think we're going to have to get her some help with breathing, right? So the doctor comes in and they have a powwow. And next thing I know, he states, we're going to have to take her to, we're going to have to take her to put her on a ventilator.
Mm.
So they
Or
wheel me out
intubation,
and
right? So,
intubation,
okay.
right. And so they
Mhm.
wheel me out. And when I came back, I just remember seeing my, Noe's face. And it just was filled with fear, shock and fear to see me on this
Hmm.
apparatus. And tears just started streaming down his face.
Hmm.
And then I remember when my sister came up the next day after I was put on the ventilator. She couldn't come up at first because she was just getting over COVID, so she had to take a COVID test to confirm like she was negative before she could come. And when she came up, again, I kind of saw the same look on her face, and she said, "Do you want to see what you look like?" And I just, because I can't talk now, I just shook my head no. So within 2 days of acquiring this disease, I am left completely paralyzed and still I can move my head back and forth. My eyelids at one point became paralyzed because I started sleeping with my eyes open.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my God.
Uh,
Wow.
That kind of finally subsided. They kept having to put drops in. That finally kind of subsided. But I was left paralyzed on a ventilator and I was in the ICU for 3 weeks at this first
Oh,
hospital.
oh,
Oh
that
my
long.
God.
Okay. And I have to ask something too.
Mhm.
Okay, there's like the shock, right? Of like going from normal, right? Like going to bed on Saturday night, waking up Sunday, and you're completely aware this entire time. I mean, you're awake on the vent. Like I've seen people on ventilators, usually near end of life. They're usually unconscious. They're not.
Yeah, it's like a
Right,
coma sort of
Yeah, you
situation.
have
right.
full awareness of everything.
Yep. Fully aware, I mean, totally had full capacity of understanding what was happening to me.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I was
gosh.
totally awake.
Hmm.
Um, The only way I could communicate once I was put on the ventilator was by a letter. Like they had like this little letter chart,
Oh.
and you just had to like go through. So like there was three lines, right? A through whatever, let's say M through whatever, and then and you had to point to a letter and basically kind of make out the words and then try to make out a sentence of what I was trying to say. So it was extremely frustrating for
Mm-hmm.
me, for my family members, um, for the medical staff, just to try to figure out what I was going through.
So
So, yeah.
you said you were there for 3 weeks and then they moved you. So during that 3 week
Mhm.
period of time, were you progressively getting worse, or you got to the paralysis part, you're intubated, and then things kind of stayed as is, or like,
And are they doing anything for you therapy wise and treatment wise? Like, do they even
Not at
have?
this point. No, 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 not at
okay,
this point, because I'm on the vent. There wasn't much they could do.
okay,
Um, like my family members would come in and like move my arms and my legs for
uh-huh,
me. Excuse me. But so for the first 3 weeks, it basically what I was experiencing, I would have severe panic attacks repeatedly throughout the day, and they would just come on because I think I was so in my head. I had no idea what was happening, how bad this was going to get, if I was going to come out of the paralysis, come off the vent. There's so many things going on in my head at this point because it happened so quickly. And again, not knowing what this disease is, never hearing about it, I was like completely in fear and panic in my
mm-hmm.
head. Yeah.
Yeah, and is that normal? Have they told you that it comes on that quickly in typical cases, or can it vary?
No, it totally varies.
Okay.
Excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat. Probably apologize. Everybody's different. Um, the people that I have actually spoken to who had acquired this, it took a couple days. Some
Mm.
it took a little over a week where he just started feeling weakness. So every person is different how they acquire it, but yes, everybody is different in their diagnosis and how quickly it attacks and how far it attacks. How far up your body it can go. Not everybody gets full paralysis. Like I said, some can get partial paralysis. Everybody is just completely different.
Hmm. Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow.
That's
So
wild.
3 weeks in, and you're in the hospital, the same hospital that you were admitted into, correct? At that point, so you had been there in
Yes.
ICU. Okay, and then there's a decision to move you into a new hospital or a
Yes.
different place.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So they decided because I wasn't, you know, I had no change in my symptoms. So there was a place in St. Charles. There, so it's called Select Specialty Hospital, and it is within the St. Joseph SSM healthcare. So they took me by ambulance. 3 weeks later, they take me by ambulance to this Select Specialty Hospital, where they have dealt with Guillain-Barre patients before and
Oh,
had like
okay.
better experience and knowledge of how to treat this disease. So, one of the things that they did for me when I first got there um, was I'm still on the vent, and they started, it's called IVIG infusions. And so this infusion helps try to stop the the paralysis and the immune system attacking any more of your body. It tries to like stop it where it's at. But unfortunately for me, I mean, I was already fully paralyzed, but it does help kind of stop the progression. And then eventually that infusion will help kind of start regenerating your nerves.
Oh, okay.
But unfortunately, that did not, the first infusion didn't take well at all. And I was really diminishing. So the doctor who was treating me at the first hospital, which was Mercy Hospital in St. Louis County, Um, he basically, informed my family if I lived that for the most part, I probably would be left paralyzed and on a ventilator
Mm,
if I survived this.
that's
But
that's not a
it
good prognosis,
no, it
right?
was not a good prognosis,
Quality of
right?
life, all of that. Yeah.
Exactly. So then they moved me to the second hospital, which was the Select Specialty Hospital in St. Charles, and there they started the IVIG infusion, and but that, like I said, it didn't take as well as they had hoped, and my health really started diminishing. They couldn't regulate my blood pressure. My heart rate kept dropping. Um, I remember that, and I was hot. I was so hot. And that
Mm.
was one of the things, and I meant to ask the other people, and I didn't. I don't know why. But I remember one of the biggest issues I had in both hospitals that I had been to now, I was so hot that they had to put ice packs. I had ice packs up and down my body.
Oh
I
my
had two
gosh.
fans, one on each side of my head, and ice packs all over my body. At least 6 to 8 ice packs on me at any given time.
Is it like your body temperature isn't like your body's not able to like regulate your temperature? Is that
I don't. I think, but I also they were trying to figure that out too, right? They weren't
yeah.
really sure if it's due to
You're
all
like,
the
I don't know, I was just
medication.
hot. That's
Excuse me, I was on so much medication
sure. And who knows, right? At that point,
that
like
if they
what's
didn't, if
causing
they
what?
weren't sure if the my the body not being able to regulate my temperature was due to all the medicine I was on,
Hmm.
or it's just part of this disease, the process of this disease. So I remember I'm laying in bed. Now this is now again, we're just at the second hospital here. I'm laying in bed and I hear all the bells and whistles going off on my machines, and doctors and nurses come running in. And then I came to, and there is a cardiologist like leaning over me, and he's calling my name. And I wake up, and he's like, honey, he's like, your heart just crashed,
Oh my gosh.
and we're going to need to take you down and put a pacemaker in. And
Whoa.
I remember I shook my head no. And my sister's like, grab the letterboard. And so I just spelled out too young. And he
Oh,
leaned over me.
oh,
He said, honey, he said, this is now the third time this has happened.
oh my gosh.
And it took us, this last time, it took us a half hour to get you back.
Oh my gosh.
You were dead for half an hour?
Well, I don't know if it took a half hour for them to bring me. No, I don't know. It wasn't, I don't think they had to, I
I'm
think it
like,
was like
that's a miracle.
to me to like wake up and come out of it. So I
Gotcha.
don't, I think I just like passed out, but I, I don't know. I just remember
Yeah.
him
Wow.
saying, honey, it took
You
a
were
half
you
hour.
were not there. You were
Wow.
unconscious. There was all that
Yes,
your heart was crashing over and over again.
yes,
So they made
yes.
a decision that quickly. And by the way, this is like I always felt like putting a pacemaker in is like a more like planned thing, right? Like you're having heart failure or whatever. We need to schedule
Right.
you for
Yeah.
like that can happen that quickly. That's also kind of amazing, right?
Well, yeah. And then, he said, and he explained to me, he's like, this way your heart won't ever drop below like 65%.
Okay.
So with the pacemaker in, like, and it'll be good for 20 to 25 years. He's
Okay.
like, your heart will be regulated constantly.
Okay.
And
So
so
that's a good thing.
they take me down, they put this little, and it's this little tiny device. I don't even, it's so tiny
Mm,
that, I mean, you can't see it. A lot of
sure.
the older pacemakers, you kind of see it kind of popping out of your skin. It's
Yes,
just
my
this
grandmother
little,
had one. Yeah, I
so
remember.
right?
Yep.
But this is just like this little tiny device.
Hmm.
It's so minute that they inserted, you know, in a valve above my heart, and that's what regulates it. It's crazy.
Wow.
Technology today is amazing.
It is.
Um, so yeah, so they just, like I said, they were having so many issues with regulating my blood pressure and stabilizing me. I just kept becoming unstable, and in so many different ways that the doctor told my sister in no way, if she has any out of town family members, you need to call them in.
So they're at that point, and this
They're
is
at this
after the
point.
pacemaker. They're just like, this
Yep.
doesn't, this
It's
doesn't
not
look
looking good. No, this
good.
doesn't look good for her.
Oh my
So my
gosh.
sister informed the doctors that they are not allowed to say that to me and that I was a fighter. And if there's any chance that, she's going to fight for her life, that's my sister. So, so then I guess after that, I saw the only family member that was out of town was my oldest brother Joe, who just moved from California to Colorado. All my other siblings are in, my daughter's in town. So everybody was around me while all this was going on. And then I remember laying in bed, and my oldest brother Joe comes walking through the door. And the first thought I had was, oh my God, I must be in really bad shape to get him on a plane, to get him here this quick. Because he travels for his job, so he's gone all the time.
Okay.
And it's very hard, right? So I mean, when we see my brother, it's like a scheduled vacation, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's coming in town, or we're all going to meet somewhere, but it's always planned. And so when he walked through the door, I thought, oh my God, like Joe's here. This must be really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that literally was like, oh my God, my brother's here. It's like I knew something was going on. And
Wow. And
so,
was that when you were at the first hospital?
second, all this
That
now
was
is
at the
happening.
second.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
the
Okay.
pacemaker, all this now is happening at the second hospital.
Okay. So
And they
he came
could
and saw you at the
not,
second. Got it. Okay.
they kept trying to wean me from the vent. And I was having a very, very difficult time because they wanted to put a tracheotomy. They wanted to put a trach in me to get me off the
Oh.
vent. And, but they were having a very, very difficult time weaning me from the vent.
Mm-hmm.
So brother comes in, and then my other brother is in tow with him. And my sister was already there. Noe's there. My daughter is there. My grandchildren are there. And they're like, honey, we have to have a very difficult conversation. And I just shook my head, yes. And they said, we've called Joan, who is my best friend, one of my best friends. And she's an attorney. And they said, we have her already, like, preparing the legal power of attorney, medical power of attorney. um, because, you know, in case anything should happen and you no longer could speak, we need to make sure that we have all the legal documents in place to become your advocate. And
Mm-hmm.
I just shook my head, yes. My parents just passed away. I work in law. I know what this means.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're at this point now, and I'm like, wow. And the whole time in my head, I'm thinking, wow, okay. Like this is really serious. And then they said to me, honey, we have to ask you the hardest question we thought we'd ever have to ask you. Because I'm the baby of the family, right? What are your last wishes? If
That's
you
heavy.
should be left paralyzed and on a vent, is that how you want to live? And I just looked at my daughter, and I just kind of like tilted my head, like, what am I going to do? And I just shook my head, no, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, I do not want to be, that's no capacity of life. And I do not want to be a burden to my family. I don't want my family members or my grandchildren to remember me in that capacity, So I just
Yep.
shook my head no. And they're like, do you understand what we're saying? And tears just started coming down my eyes, out of my eyes and down my face. And I just shook my head, yeah. I said, yes, I completely understand what we're discussing here. Like, I'm not going to make this.
Ugh,
So
that's terrible.
I laid there for the next 2 days, and I made peace with death. I just talked to God, and I said, if you're calling me home, you're calling me home, and I'm ready to go. And then miraculously, 2 days later, both of my brothers come in, they sit down, they're like, honey, we got to talk to you. So for these last couple days, we've been doing like deep research into this disease because obviously, none of us in this family have ever heard of this disease. And I shook my head, yeah. And they said, "Do you know that Guillain-Barre patients can make a full recovery?" There is, history of Guillain-Barre patients that have made like almost a full or a full recovery from
And
this.
no one had said this to you in the hospital. I mean, they're basically not any of the medical professionals at this point
No,
had even suggested this was a
no,
possibility. Okay.
no, no.
Okay. Oh,
And
oh,
Are you
good
trying
on
to
your
upset me? Are you trying to
good.
upset me?
Jeremy's like, this might be the first time I cry on the podcast. I mean, this is a really it's a heart-wrenching story. Like I guess the emotions are
yeah,
rough. Yeah.
and again, I just, I for like I said, for those 2 days, it was peaceful, right? I mean, it was peaceful because it was just laying there and just having these conversations with God. And it was so peaceful. And
Mm.
I just had accepted it. It's like, okay. I'm like, it's a bummer that you're kind of taking me this soon. I really would like to have seen my grandchildren grow up and see what their lives become and, and have more time with my family. But if you call me home, you're calling me home. So fast forward 2 days later, my brothers tell me this. And I am telling you guys, my brain flipped in that instant.
Mm.
And I went into, oh my God, I have a chance at life. And if I want my life back, I have to fight like hell. And I
Yeah.
mean, it was so instantaneous how my brain went from accepting death to go into fight mode immediately.
Mm.
And that's what I did.
Right.
Wow.
Well, you're here, so
Yeah.
clearly clearly you are a fighter. So that was kind of where things changed, and then
So,
and I'm sorry,
yes,
just timeline wise, like how long had you been from the initial diagnosis? How
Oh,
many
this
weeks?
is like a month, right?
A weeks out, are we?
this is about a month and a half.
A month and a
Month and a
half.
half.
It's about a month and a half, right?
Okay.
That's a
So
long time.
6 weeks from
Feeling
the time it happened. You're
from the
like, all
time
right,
from the day it happened,
let's
correct.
freaking go and
Yeah.
win this thing. Okay.
So they finally were able to wean me off the vent and then put a trach in me. Okay, so now I have the apparatus out of my mouth. I have a trach. I still can't talk, but they start therapy. So it's like very simple therapy. It's just sitting me up, right? Because I had been laying down this entire time. I can't move.
Were you getting
So
any
it's
feeling back at this point? Is that why
no.
therapy was an option? You were still paralyzed.
Well, yeah. So they did another round of the IVIG.
Okay.
Okay, they did a second round. So with that second round, I remember that I was sitting there and my family members are there, and all of a sudden I moved my shoulders. And I remember my brother Dominic goes, "Wait, did you do that on purpose?" And I kind of looked at him like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Do that again." And I just kind of looked at me and goes, shrug your shoulders. And so I did it. And he's like, "Oh my God." He's like, "Go get a nurse, go get a nurse." And so, showed her what I was able to do. Long story short, when the disease attacks your body, it starts normally from the lower extremities and works its way up. But when your nerves start to regenerate, it starts waking up from the top and works its way down. So
Whoa.
it's complete reverse.
What a
Go
freaky
ahead.
weird disease. I am
I
like,
know. I know.
ugh, it's
So
crazy.
with them, like sitting me up, I remember the first time they sat me up. Like I actually sat up. I have my therapist on each side, right? They sit me up, and I just immediately like threw myself back. The pain that radiated throughout my entire body was so horrendous
Mm,
because my nerves are just firing on all cylinders throughout my entire body. It was so excruciating and painful. And they're like, "Honey, we have to sit you up. We've got to get you up and moving." Okay. And so they did it again. And again, I just, in my head, I'm like, "You're in fight mode. You just got to suck it up, right? You
mm,
just got to endure this. If you want to get better, you have to go through this." So then, so that's therapy. We just started with sitting up. And then eventually it was like moving. like moving my legs to where I'm just like hanging off, like my legs are hanging off the bed. And then they eventually were able to move me from my bed to a chair. And they, and so they have you on apparatus that like physically they wrap you, like they roll you over and put like this mesh thing under you, right? And then they roll you over to where it's completely under you, and then there's hooks. And then they have this apparatus that they take the rings and they hook it onto this apparatus, and this apparatus literally physically lifts you up off your bed
Oh,
and slings you over.
like
So you're like,
The
like a
hoist.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That was
that's
looking for the
exactly.
word.
It's a
Okay,
hoist,
okay.
and hoist you over, and then brings you down and sits you in the chair. And then when you're ready to get back into bed, they do it again and pick you up and take you over. So, they wanted me out of the bed. So I think the first week we were doing that, it was normally about an hour. And then my body was just like, I'm done. I need to lay back down. And then as time went on, because I was there a full month, so now I'm in the third week where they're starting to do this therapy, right? And then the fourth week rolls around and they're working with me well, the third and the fourth week, they're working with me to be able to swallow, to like take sips of water, like be able to just like suck on ice. Then it was, um, drink tea or a liquid. Everything was liquid. And then it was like, let's see you try to eat, because they have to see that I had to do this whole testing about swallowing and to make sure that I was able to swallow, because I was on the vent for so long, because everything basically just shut down. And so it's kind of retraining my body how to eat and how to swallow and how to use my body
Mm,
again.
yeah.
So every little thing is like you're learning everything completely as an infant, like all over again, like how to
Mm,
do all this. It's crazy.
that is
Um,
crazy.
so that's the third and fourth week where I'm going through the training of like learning how to eat again, sit up, move my body. There was a point where they put me on a standing table, where they strap me on. They move me off the bed right over into this table where you're flat, strap you down, and then, flip a switch and then the table goes completely to where you're standing up. And it's again just to get the blood flowing right up and down your body.
Hmm.
So I
Are
went
you
through
like
that.
strapped to this table? I'm like
I am
picturing it
strapped to
like
this table.
like
Right.
right kind of okay.
Yep, top,
Got
middle,
it.
bottom, strapped. And so it's again, it's just and they leave you there for like 45 minutes. And it's again, just to get the blood flowing,
Okay.
throughout your body. So the next thing I was able to do, shrugging my shoulders, it became more, you know, like, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? I was able to do it more, right?
Mm.
And
Effortless,
then,
more
yes, it
effortlessly.
just came
More
like more
natural.
natural, right? And it
Yeah.
became more. Like the first time was just very gently, right? But now it's
Hmm.
like, okay, like more
Like
movement.
pronounced. Yeah.
I'm getting more movement. Then I was able to start moving my hands just back and forth.
So that whole thing of like the top down
It's way
was
down.
coming kind
Yeah,
of slowly working its way back.
slowly. Right.
Okay.
It's very, very, it's such, it's such a slow, but just now I'm able to shrug my shoulders and move my hands back and forth. So now I'm in the fourth week and able to move my hands, and then it became my arms, just my forearms. Okay, I was able to move like my forearms back and forth with my hands, and then I was able to shrug. Could not feel anything from my waist down at this point still.
Hmm.
Okay, um but I am able now to start eating. Okay, they take me finally, so they started training my voice where they would put this little device like on my trach, and then they capped it, and then I could actually hear my voice. So I was able to start speaking and hear
Oh,
my
oh,
voice.
okay.
And so they did this, and again, this is just training my vocal cords again. This is like, or it's therapy for my vocal cords. So we did this daily, and they're trying to wean me off the trach. So I had to go through this series of being on this machine, and they kept like diminishing how much effort the machine is allowing me to breathe, to where I'm like trying to breathe on my own, right?
Hmm.
And so I had to get up to a certain point, to like 90%, where I'm breathing on my own before they would even consider taking me off the trach. So I finally, 3 days before I left this hospital, they um, they take the trach out, and my voice just came right back. She said it probably will be very like in a whisper, but again, your vocal cords will start training your vocal cords and stuff. As soon as they took me off, it's like I started speaking in my normal voice,
Oh, how
and
was that weird to like hear your voice again after so long?
it was to be able to speak again
Yeah,
after this is now literally 2 months,
right.
and to be able to just have any movement and
Hmm.
to be able to speak
Like there was no
to
guarantees for any of this, and now it's
nothing,
happening.
You were at
nothing,
a
and
point, you accepted death at one point. You were
correct.
ready.
I was
And
ready. Yeah.
like, and then months later, you're moving around and talking.
I
Yeah.
have some
Like
movement
that's,
and I'm able to talk. I'm able to
man, you
start
went
eating.
all the way down and came all the way back up. That's crazy.
So, so from there, they, okay, this is the craziest story. When I was at the first hospital at Mercy, and I remember that I woke up and I had a friend that I worked with at a law firm, and she was a nurse. And, and we worked in personal injury. And so we both left the firm and she went back into nursing, and because she was a consultant, and so she went back into nursing, right, and I went to another firm, and I hadn't seen her in 10 years. Like we connected through Facebook, and every once in a while I'd see a picture and I'd send her a text or saying how you doing, just catch up that way. But I woke up and she's in my face. And my eyes just kind of like shot up, right? I'm on a
What
vent,
in
I
the
can't move,
world?
and my eyes just kind of shot up. She goes, I know this is freaking you out, and you have no idea why I'm here, but I'm going to explain. She said, I work with Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, and they are one of the best rehabilitation labs in the United States. They have been, voted number one for the past 34 years. And I work for Shirley Ryan. It's up in Chicago, and I work remote here, right? But I saw your name on the list. So I think what she does is she'll come in and look at new patients that have come in, or someone notifies her, hey, we have a neurological patient. You
Mhm.
may want to come in and see if they would be a good candidate for
And she
Shirley
recognized
Ryan.
you,
She looked,
obviously.
saw my name. She's like, God, this cannot be my friend. And sure enough, she started reading my chart. She's like, oh my God, this is my friend. And so she came in the room. So then she
Uh,
started getting a hold of my sister, and they finally ended up connecting. And she tells Donna, she said, Donna, I'm already like talking with her insurance company, and I just need confirmation that they will cover her stay at Shirley Ryan. And if they do, once she is done with therapy or once they get her stabilized at Select Specialty Hospital over in St. Charles, we're going to fly her up she needs to be flown up to Chicago and start rehab up there. It is one of the best rehabilitation centers in the United States. So, fast forward, okay. So this happens at the first huddle, at the first hospital. We get to the second hospital. I am now a month in, and they take the trach out. I'm eating. I have a little movement, and they tell me, okay, it is now time. You're going to be medvaced up to Shirley Ryan in Chicago. So my sister explains what all is taking place, and they needed a advocate, a family member to come with me to, watch over me, be my advocate, like be my voice, right? So
mhm.
Donna was on the legal and medical power of attorney. So she basically packed up her car, all of her work equipment, drove up to Chicago and was there with me the entire time. So I leave. So the timeline is now
What a
I
great
leave.
sister, by the way.
Yeah,
Go,
right.
Donna.
So she was the same one when we were at both hospitals that she told both doctors. They were never allowed to tell me I wasn't going to make it. Okay.
Yeah.
That my family members would be the ones if it came
Hmm.
to that point, but I don't want to even put that in her head.
What a
So
great
she
cheerleader to
was,
have.
yeah, I mean, she just completely jumped in. My parents are both deceased. So you talk about, my older sister becoming a mama bear times 10, like
Yeah.
just advocated, was my voice, and just fought everything for me to get the best care that I was receiving at any place that I was at this point. So she packs up her car. The morning they medvac me, she's driving to Chicago to meet me there. And they put her up at the Hyatt, which was like a block and a half away from Shirley Ryan. So every day she would work, from the hotel. And then around 4:35, she would walk down and be with me, till the evening. And then, like around 10 o'clock, then she would take the shuttle from Shirley Ryan back to the hotel. This was a daily, thing that
Wow.
was happening. But the good thing is, so first of all, before I move on, any questions? You guys want
Oh man.
to?
I have a lot of
Much
questions.
time do you have? Yeah, we probably have lots of questions. This is an
It
incredible
I mean
yeah.
so I mean they gave you a few rounds of that therapy, the IVIG that you call it.
Correct.
But other than that, it's almost like your body just kind of worked its way out of it
It did.
outside of just those
It
few rounds
did.
of treatment.
And
But it took a couple months. Like
it did.
this needs, people, this information should be out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Exactly. Which is
diseases like this
why
need to start being researched
Mm-hmm.
it does. It really, and there needs to be more awareness. There really needs to be more awareness. And
because
people need to understand that, you know, you have the ability to survive this,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how much your body regenerates. You will, for the most part. For the most part, right? There are people who have died from this disease that didn't
Sure.
make it, but there is a good possibility that you will survive this.
Yeah. It's not a guaranteed death sentence.
It's not.
but
You're
it
obviously
but
proof of that.
it sounds like the hospital is treating it as such though. Like
Yes,
there's nothing we can do for you. We're just going to put you on a ventilator. They're telling your family you're going to die.
mhm.
Like, but I mean, are there stats enough on this disease? Like, is it common to recover? Do you know, or like, do they even have enough stats compiled to even have stats?
I know it's
You
crazy.
know what? And I mean, there is research out there, right? So when you Google this disease, there's definitely research out there. There's books that have been written about it and stuff, but there is not enough awareness to bring people into the knowledge of hearing about this.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing that, knowing if you hear this, oh, I know what that is. Yeah, sure, I know. It's just like MS or Parkinson's, or, you hear that word, you're like, oh, I know what that is. When
Mm-hmm.
people say Guillain-Barre syndrome, people are like, what the hell are you talking about? What is
Yeah.
that? I've never heard of that. The
Mhm.
majority, unless you have known personally someone who's had this disease, the majority of people do not know about this disease and what it is, how it attacks your body, why it attacks your body, why it attacks, if there's any rhyme or reason, which I don't think it is, why it attacks this person and not that person. It's not hereditary. I do know that. Um, but the research needs to be more profound. It needs to be more awareness needs to be talked about, with research getting out there and physicians, and medical personnel really bringing this disease to light and letting
Mm-hmm.
people know about this and what the percentage is of survival.
Yeah.
And that is not out there right now.
Okay.
Um, so
Because that's the
go
thing
ahead.
is like if it, it's if it's really common that it takes you to a point where it seems like you're going to die, but most people can actually recover from that. That's something you should know
Mm-hmm.
in the process. Like, I know this looks really bad, but they're most likely going to be okay.
But there's
Is a
hope,
very
right?
different thing than get their stuff in order because they're going out. Like, it's
And
a
the
very
only
different
ounce of
approach.
hope that I had that threw me into fight mode was the hope that came from my brothers.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
God for them that they, took it upon themselves to be like, all right,
To
what the
do the
hell is this thing
research.
about?
Yeah.
Let's.
Once again, you got to be your own doctor now.
You
It
gotta.
comes up in like every episode we do, one way or another.
Yeah, personal patient, right? Advocacy is just, we have, it's very critical, and we have so much information, right? Accessible to us. So,
Yes.
good on your brothers for
I
taking
know.
that in their
God
hands.
bless them. Seriously.
Thanks for joining us on the Healthcare Uprising. Make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons before you go, and take a moment to think of a friend and hit that share button. You can find us on all the major audio platforms, and we've got video on YouTube if you want to watch us in action.
You can also find us on social media on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. Just search Healthcare Uprising to find us. And if you're a new company with a cool new product, if you're someone innovating alternative methods for the health and wellness space, or if you have a personal healthcare journey you'd like to share with us here at The Uprising, please email us at healthcareuprising@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you about coming on the show. Well, that's all for this dose of Healthcare Uprising. Until the next time, keep looking for the good in the world, because sometimes it's where you least expect it.
We are not doctors and we don't play one on TV. If you need medical advice, consult with your physician or a healthcare professional. This has been a Shut Up production.